The LowDOWN podcast is recorded from the shared unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Coquitlam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam. As the seasons change and the fall rains come, we are reminded of the Coast Salish people's long history of stewardship and care of this land. Without it, we could not provide a safe space for families and individuals with Down syndrome to learn and develop new skills. It is with acknowledgement and gratitude that we move forward into our 10th season.
Today on the LowDOWN, a Down syndrome podcast, Sarah and Lynn Shishido gives us a lowdown on telling your child that they have Down syndrome. Over to you, Hannah Marla.
Thanks, Danielle. This episode is brought to you by our Season 10 sponsor, the Ames Family Foundation. Hi there, and welcome to the LowDOWN. I'm Marla, a co-host of the podcast, and with me here is Hannah. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Marla. How are you?
Oh, I am good.
Ready for our season premiere?
I sure am. Yay, Season 10 premiere. So today's episode, we're going to be chatting about a topic that can provide families some anxiety and some pause, which is explaining Down syndrome to their child or loved one. And there's many considerations when broaching this topic with your child, including language level and emotional readiness. And we are going to be guided today by a wonderful DSRF family who's going to chat about this topic with us. So today we're joined by the Shishidos. They're a family of 3 who love to spend time together. Their daughter, Sarah, who has Down syndrome, was born in 2007 and is a full-on teenager at 16 years old. She's joyful and active, a young lady whose enthusiastic sense of humor and adventure. Sarah is active in lyrical dance, artistic swimming, challenger baseball, really likes school, and is starting grade 11 with plans to join the school swim team this year. As the family, they enjoy traveling, spending time with extended family, and being spectators/Uber drivers for Sarah's endeavors. That sounds like parents of a teen if I've ever heard it. Welcome to the LowDOWN, Shishido family. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
You're busy, Sarah. That was a long list of things that you're involved in. Your parents are doing a lot of Uber driving for you. So when we do the podcast, we like to start with some icebreaker secret questions. And we have one for each of you. Okay, and we're going to start with Dad, with Craig here. So if you could make an office rule that everyone had to follow for a day, what would it be? I know the power of it is funny.
Office rule.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, stump me with the first question. What would the rule be if it was an office rule? I would say, because I don't drink coffee, I'd say no coffee at your desk.
Oh, boy. I don't know if that rule would be very popular or if it would help productivity, but Glenn, our producer, agrees with you. Oh, that's funny. And for Lynn, Mom, if you could instantly become an expert in something, what would you choose? What would you like?
Oh, my gosh. Right now, I think I'd like to be an expert in teenagers.
You know, I think a lot of parents of teens relate to that one. Uh-huh. Oh, my goodness.
Love that. Okay, Sarah, this question is for you. If you invented an ice cream flavor, what flavor would that be? What ingredients would you like in your ice cream?
Chocolate
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else or just plain chocolate?
and fudge.
Oh, I like where this is going. Okay. Anything else?
Strawberries.
Oh. And then if you could give your ice cream flavor a name, what would you call it?
High School Musical.
Oh, I get it because it's red and black.
Yeah.
Just like High School Musical.
Yeah.
Oh, very clever. That would sell.
All right, Ben and Jerry's, if you're listening, contact Sarah. Okay, well, thanks for doing those little questions for us, everybody. Let's kind of start talking about our topic today. Craig and Lynn, let's start with you first. Where did you seek information about how to talk about Down syndrome with your child? Like, how did that process kind of get started for you?
I can't say we ever actually sought information or advice anywhere. I mean, we certainly talked to our therapists when she was young, the doctors, the pediatricians. But I can't say we actually sought out information. It was before we got involved with the Down Syndrome Resource Foundation. We've always been, the reality is she has Down syndrome. So we've always talked about she has Down syndrome.
Yeah, we wanted to start early on using the phrase Down syndrome and just being, open about the word Down syndrome because, we found often that, people around Sarah would talk about Down syndrome to us and it would be part of conversations. So we didn't want it to be something that was she didn't understand or didn't hear. But we were also cautious as to when was the right time and how much to say, because certainly she, there was no point in having an extensive conversation at certain ages. It was really just feeling her out and, how she responded at the time. And I do remember when we started here at the DSRF, speaking with her speech therapist at the time, about, when do you kind of have those conversations and how much depth do you go into with the conversation? Because it is something when she was younger that we were concerned about and wanted to make sure that we were doing sort of the right thing, whatever that is, but that we were having the conversation appropriately with her.
Sarah, can I ask you a question? When did you realize that there was something really special and unique about you?
Well, I did have the best hair color and eyesight.
Say more.
And having brown eyes from my parents. And being unique. And my thumb pointing towards my finger.
Oh, okay. So there's a few things that are unique about you. And I like that you said your eyes come from your parents. You do have very, very fabulous eyes.
Yeah, that's great, Sarah. I like that you talked about some of the things that you were aware of, right? That made you special and unique. And still to this day, continue to be special and unique. Yeah. Craig and Lynn, when Sarah was born, what was it like for you within the family to kind of talk about Sarah having Down syndrome within like the family unit and extended family unit? Was it similar, like a conversation with everybody? And talk to us a little bit about that part.
Yeah, so when Sarah was first born, we didn't know that she had Down syndrome, so we had the testing done after she was born, and found out, about 4 or 5 days later. So it was really a bit of a step-by-step conversation as people came to see us because we were still in hospital. She was born premature. So it was really a step-by-step process, but our families were very accepting and just so thrilled that Sarah was finally here. That they weren't difficult conversations with our families, I do have to say, but it was a lot when you're first having your first child.
Yes.
So, and she was premature and there were a lot of things happening. So I do remember that we did ask some good friends of ours to kind of speak to our friendship group and just let them know that, Sarah was born with Down syndrome, that she's healthy, that she's doing well, but there's a little bit of extra care right now. So, we might not be in touch as quickly as, or that we would have wanted to be otherwise. But we did, it was a relief to kind of have some good friends share some of the information for us so that I think people's initial reaction or response is they've had a chance to think about it as well.
Yes. And so you don't have to be there when they're watching the thoughts process on their face.
Yeah, because of course everyone's very, very happy, but a lot of people like us really didn't quite understand what Down syndrome meant. So we had to figure it out and we had to learn, but it did sort of help that we didn't, have to do all of the spreading the news, so to speak. Yeah.
Able to delegate a little bit. Yeah.
We had extra time in hospital too, so we were able to work with like a lactation consultant, things like that, that had more experience and could advise us what would be coming up or could be challenges for us. So that helped us to start our preparation.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is a little bit of a sense of relief sometimes, depending on what exactly is going on, to have a baby under medical care for a little bit longer while you can start to think about what this can look like at home. And then you just know that you have people there who can answer questions as they come up.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very helpful. Was she there for a long time?
So about a week.
Okay.
And then we were connected with the infant development program quite quickly. So they were really, because we did have feeding challenges, they were, at our home the next week and providing us more guidance, which was great. And then she underwent a few more tests to ensure her health very quickly in the process as well. Yeah. So we did feel like we were really well supported medically, for sure, and to get some information for ourselves that we would need, in the immediate.
Yeah.
The pediatrician in the hospital that delivered Sarah became our primary. So it worked out very well. He was very good, and his advice to us was, you just take this baby home and you love her like any other child. And that was the start of our process.
Yeah. It's probably some of the best advice you can get in that situation, right? Yeah. Like anybody else. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Miss Sarah, are you ready for another question for you? Okay. My question for you is, do you remember when your parents told you that you have Down syndrome? And if you remember, then I would love to know what that was like.
Well, I had a doctor's appointment in the hospital, and we went to Starbucks, and I punched out a girl who had Down syndrome, so I know what is our Down syndrome. If I see somebody in Starbucks, for example.
So now you recognize when other people have Down syndrome? And did I understand correctly that your parents told you after an appointment?
Yes.
And you guys went out for a Starbucks and then they talked to you about it? Is that right?
Yeah. So when Sarah had this experience, she was quite young.
Yeah.
And we didn't really realize that she would recognize some of the attributes of another individual with Down syndrome. So we think she was about 5 or 6. We're not really sure.
Yeah.
But, so after a medical appointment, she recognized this young woman and she pointed it out to me and said, Mom, this lady who's working here has Down syndrome. And so we continued on and realized that she was telling us about it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk a little bit more about it.
That's so cool, Sarah. I love that. Great. What incredible insight, actually. And I think that speaks a lot towards probably what our other students might recognize but not be able to say when they're at those young ages, that they probably can understand more than they're talking about there.
Right.
Sarah, how do you feel about knowing that you have Down syndrome?
It feels great.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Makes me me.
It sure does. Yeah, it's part of you, right? Yeah.
And you have lots of other friends that you hang out with that have Down syndrome, and then you have friends that don't. So what does it feel like to have other friends with Down syndrome too?
Well, they are the best ever.
They're the best ever, yeah. You have a couple of very close friends, right, that have Down syndrome. Yeah, we've seen that really amazing friendship at DSRF. You're like stuck together like glue. I always bug you about that. Which is great. I think it's awesome.
Let's see. I'm curious now, because that conversation would have been had, or started to have been had directly with her, like probably more than 10 years ago for the parent. So now that you're a few years on from that, do you, looking back, feel like there are some benefits or things that stand out to you around having that conversation quite young that you think would be valuable for other people to know?
Um, I think the fact that, like, we've never hidden the fact from Sarah that she has Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't necessarily talk about what that was or what that difference would be until she started noticing some differences.
Mm-hmm.
I remember her coming in elementary school, just starting and starting out on the playground and watching these other kids run around and play tag and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah getting a little frustrated because she couldn't keep up.
Yeah. Right.
So that was probably our first conversations with her about what having Down syndrome could mean.
Mm-hmm.
That she maybe wouldn't be as coordinated or as fast as other kids and be able to climb things, have the strength to do those kinds of things yet. But so that was kind of our start of the journey of what Down syndrome would mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I like that you said yet there, because clearly Sarah's gone on to be very athletic. She's involved in tons of sports, but also she recognized at this young age, like, why is this harder for me? You mentioned other kids, and I would love to talk to you about that, because kids are famous for not having much of a filter, and they can ask things fairly bluntly. And I'm wondering if you have had experiences talking with other children, say on a playground and things like that. I know a lot of families approach me and they're like, I didn't know what to do. And I wonder if you have gone through that and what you said or did about those kinds of child questions.
I don't recall any kids saying anything.
Yeah.
No, parents have questions about their kids and around Sarah. But the kids they were just kids. They were just enjoying each other's company.
Yeah. Okay.
And when Sarah started grade school, which was when, most kids would notice something that may be different because she did have an EA in the class and that sort of thing, we tried to always have somebody come in and speak to the class that, had some expertise in Down syndrome, so that the other people in the classroom understood about disabilities, about maybe what was some of Sarah's disability. And Sarah participated in those sessions so that she could hear the conversation and people could ask questions of her if they wanted to. So, it was just trying to do something that's at the readiness of the individuals around her as well as her. And I think that was not super difficult, but as a parent trying to be patient to understand that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
Did we actually do a letter to the class, the introductory letter in kindergarten?
Oh, I believe we did. That's right.
And so it's just a little quick introduction to the class, talking about Down syndrome and Sarah's Down syndrome, and that was it, right? Just kind of laying out that she might be not able to keep up or run as fast or something like that, or that she has an EA in the class to support her. I think that was our introduction to school.
And then we kind of left our contact information if any families wanted to reach out to us or anything, if they had any questions. And I think we did that for the first few years.
And I think having known Sarah for a while now, I know that both of you were really keen on continuing that education piece for her classmates as she kind of went on into the higher grades. So I know we've at DSRF have gone into school, Sarah's school and other schools, and do presentations from like a third party perspective. Like, parents coming in is so important. And it's like, let's have somebody else come in and talk a little bit about, whether it's not necessarily always directly talking about like, oh, this is why Sarah is different, but just like how we include people that are different, because we are all different. Right. We all have, right, Sarah? Like, you remember when we would come into your class and talk about those things. And it's important for everybody to learn that. So I think for parents that are listening out there that are trying to figure out, like, what else can we do on top of, writing letters and talking to the class to yourselves, is to kind of rely on some of your community and home team to also, go in and kind of take at it from a different angle and help the students understand a little. Yeah.
And I do think that was really valuable, especially sort of, as you said, the third party aspect of it. If anyone is uncomfortable about asking us as her parents directly in any questions, and there's that opportunity for them to have a professional person that can maybe give them some other information. And, we always talked with you guys about wanting everybody to understand that everybody has differences, and we wanted to include rest of the classroom as well in the conversation, and for it not just to be about Sarah and what her differences were, but how everybody is unique.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sarah, do you remember any of those talks in the classroom?
Yeah,
Yeah. What did you think about those?
it was quite enjoyable.
Yeah. And was it kind of interesting to talk about yourself and the other students and what makes everybody different? I think that makes sense, right? Because there's other people who have other differences too.
Yeah. And I think we came a couple of years in a row, and I think your classmates were pretty great in elementary school. And they were like, oh, yeah, we remember when you came last year, right, Sarah? Like quite a few of them remembered us. So, but it was great because I think we did some fun experiments. We did some perspective taking. And so I think it was a good way for everybody to learn about each other. And I think your classmates learned a lot about you, but you also learned a lot about them. Right? Yeah. Awesome.
Whoa.
Sarah, did anything change for you after you found out that you have Down syndrome?
Well, now that I figured out my pinky pointing backwards.
Oh, you noticed that your pinky's pointing backward? Or just like kind of like at a different angle?
In a different angle.
Oh, yeah. Kind of cool.
Very flexible, right?
You're very flexible.
I also have my mouse phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
flexible.
Yeah. And Marla had mentioned at the beginning, Sarah, that you do all sorts of really wonderful sports like artistic swimming. You're a great dancer. Do you feel like having Down syndrome has kind of made you a better swimmer and a better dancer? Like you have such great creativity and musical ability.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very artistic and creative, right? Yeah. That's awesome. Great. Lynn and Craig, do you have any parting advice for families that are listening right now and are just like, oh, like I really want to tell my child, but I don't know where to go. I don't know even how to start. What would you recommend they do as some of their first few steps into this process?
I think get yourself comfortable and informed first. I think that's a really good idea because in the beginning, it does seem frightening because it is something you don't know a lot about. So I think getting yourself a little bit informed and doing what you can to feel comfortable and confident about yourself. As I mentioned before, be patient with yourself. And I think really look a little bit to your child for some cues. For us, I think at times that was sort of the hardest part. How much do we talk about it? Because there's not really a big point in over talking about what Down syndrome means. I think you need to really look at the age your child is at, not even just the age, but what developmental level they are at and what their comprehension will be.
Yeah.
Because we wanted it to feel like it was something just very natural and normal for Sarah.
Yeah.
So we looked to her for cues, and she definitely gave them to us. So, and I think that most individuals with Down syndrome would be able to do that. They would be able to let you know what they can take in and what they can understand. And trying to make it a part of our everyday conversation, and that it's not something that is, a really big deal or anything like that, that it's just who she is.
Yeah.
And I think being really open about who Sarah is has been one of the biggest things. But, I admit to worrying about it. So I guess a lot of my advice too would be, try not to worry. As time goes by and you understand your individual better, and as your whole family, understands your individual, it should come along. And then if you're still really struggling, ask for help, because there are a lot of people that can give you some really great advice on how to go about chatting about it. Sometimes maybe a third party is good to speak with your child as well if you're really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and we do that sometimes, and parents ask us to. Yeah, we talk about whatever details or things that they're hoping that we can convey. I would love to hear from you too, Sarah. What do you want other kids or teenagers to know about having Down syndrome if they are not sure yet what that means for them?
Well, Down syndrome, it doesn't mean anything, but it's what makes you beautiful.
Ooh, so well said.
We have our clip for the episode right there.
There it is. Perfect. There it is.
Check that off the list. Sarah, what advice would you give to other moms and dads out there if they're trying to tell their kids about Down syndrome?
Well, be patient with them first if you're comfortable enough to tell them what we literally are.
Yeah. Be patient and then feel comfortable before you start talking to them about it. That's wonderful advice.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been trying to be very open
Yeah.
with Sarah about Down syndrome, our families about Down syndrome, our community. It's kind of like this, we're the Shishidos. And just, so everybody in our community is well aware Sarah has Down syndrome. And everyone's embraced it in open arms. So
Just one of many things that makes you special.
exactly.
Yeah. But you're still Sarah to us, right? Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Craig and Lynn and Sarah, for joining us, having this really, really important conversation. I think you're going to help a lot of families that are listening, make them feel a little more brave, a little more prepared. So we thank you for your honesty and for coming and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.